welcome to 3D Movie Cinema, the only show that's 3 dimensions away from a Christmas story being called In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. I'm your host 3D Jake, and today we're looking at A Christmas Story, released in 1983. A Christmas Story is directed by Bob Clark and is written by Bob Clark, Lee Brown, and Gene Shepard, and based on the book In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash by Gene Shepard as well. And the movie stars Darren McGavin, Melinda Dillon, and Peter Billingsley. The movie is essentially about a little boy named Ralphie in the 1940s who really, on this faithful day at the end of Thanksgiving, sees this, all the toys that are coming soon, at this toy store, and he sees a Red Ryder BB gun, and he wants that so bad because it looks so cool to him. So, of course, he asks his mother for it, and the mom says, "You'll shoot your eye out." So he's determined to, by whatever it means, to get it, by asking Santa, his dad, whatever he wants, whoever will listen, even his teacher, because he really wants that toy gun. I love this movie. This is my favorite Christmas movie, and I just want to say, I thought on this faithful, beautiful Christmas day, I would give to you guys the best Christmas movie ever made, A Christmas Story. I'm a huge Christmas Story fan. I watch the marathon 24 hours on TBS every single year. We've been watching it since it was on TNT, because remember, TNT used to do it for 24 hours, and then TBS, the Turner broadcast station, then started doing it for 24 hours, and TBS is kind of my station, so I just leave it on there 24/7. I love 24 Hours of A Christmas Story, and I plan on watching it tonight for 24 hours. I'm a huge Christmas Story fan. I love it. It's a fantastic movie. I know some people hate the movie for different reasons. I think the main reason why people hate it is just because it's either the Chinese restaurant scene, or it's because it's played over and over and over again, and they just don't think it's that good. It's just out of personal taste. So I think really, and I can understand the Chinese scene, restaurant scene. I can understand why people hate that scene. That's understandable. Personal taste, I can understand why, but it's like you're hating it because everybody else likes it. That just makes you petty, And like the Chinese restaurant scene is only one small scene that has really nothing. It's just they go to a Chinese restaurant, and the Chinese people are immigrants, and so they have poor singing voices. And so the family is snickering and laughing, cutting up because the way their sound singing. And so, nowadays it's really offensive for that to happen, because they're being offensive, because these people are singing their heart out for them, and they're for their own amusement, and then they're just laughing at them. I can see it's where that's the only scene in the movie that kind of makes the family seem like assholes. But the whole movie, it's a coming of age story about this little boy who wants a Christmas present. And this movie was, when it came out, I think in the summer, in 1983, and I really think was stupid to put it out in the summer. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it came out in the summer. It flopped, and then when it came out on HBO is when it was really popular and everything. And then of course it came out after HBO. It came out, then it came on TNT, and everything was popular. And TNT decided they needed some programming, so we're gonna run it for 24 hours. And so they ran it for 24 hours, and it was so popular they did it again and again and again. And then eventually TBS picked it up and started doing it for 24 hours. And one year I think they didn't do it at all, and then so many people got angry that they said, okay, we'll never do that again. 24 Hours of A Christmas Story. And it's such a fun movie. I mean, this is one movie I will never own because it comes on 24 hours. And I feel like if I own it, then it'll less incentivize me to watch it. Even though I own all the Halloween movies, I still rewatch all the Halloween movies on AMC. I just feel like I'm less incentivized to watch it if I have it. So I just refuse to buy it. I've had many opportunities to buy it, and I just don't want to because, it's such a cult classic movie, and I just enjoy that experience. And hopefully one day, I could have that experience when I have children, and I could show them this movie, and this will be their tradition, because this is a tradition that started with my mother and my father. And what I will say about the story, and not, I know I'm talking a lot about the legacy of the movie, but I will say about the movie, I do enjoy this movie. I like that it's got hijinks in it and everything, and it is a little dated because it has a lot of references that go over your head, and everything, and it's just I was sitting there rewatching this movie, you know, because I did rewatch it before I reviewed this movie, and I'm gonna rewatch it for 24 hours. Don't get worried. But hey, like there's a like you know the kid wouldn't eat, and so he's like there are starving people in China, you know, and I just remember that I'm like that's such a dated reference because it's like, you know, and then on top of that, you know, where it's like, you know, Little Orphan Nanny, and it's just like, you know, all this stuff, which again, this is supposed to be in the 40s, but at the same time, there's even references, you know, like, there's even, like, references that are from the 80s that are, like, dated in the present day, and I'm just like, in this movie, you know, like, you know, I guarantee this movie goes over a lot of people's heads, and I know there are people out there that don't like It's a Wonderful Life because they feel like the movie's dated, in which I can understand that, but I think It's a Wonderful Life is still a wonderful movie because, no pun intended, because it literally is a great message. And I understand some people say it's not really a Christmas movie until like the last third act of the movie. I can understand that. But with A Christmas Story, the whole movie is, you know, like the dad's a furnace fighter. You know, he like literally is and like he wins a prize. And like I love the dad fighting with the furnace, even though, you know, and like which you know, like you're surprised, like wouldn't their house just burn down by now? Because it's like, you know, like they're so poorly wired, and it's so they would just burn their house would burn to the ground, you know, and everything. And I do love when the leg lamp. And my thing is, I was watching it and I'm like, why wouldn't the mom just destroy the leg lamp like when he went to work? Why would he wait until he's at home when he's working on the furnace to just go and say, I'm gonna go water the plant and go and knock that thing down? I'm just like, that to me is where I'm like, are you serious? Like, you know, and the dad, after like he cries, he goes and gets glue and everything, and he literally is like, you know, which after like him and the wife start arguing over it, and she's like, that's the most ugliest thing I've seen in my entire life. And I'm like, now he really suspects you did it. You know, at first you're like, it's an accident, but now, because the mom hates it because she thinks it's disgusting, it's offensive, it's tacky, you know, and everything. And I can understand why, but it's at the time it was like very perverse. It'd be like nowadays hanging a naked picture of a naked lady out of your window. You know, back then this was like provocative. You know, it's just a leg lamp, which you know, I'm a huge fan of the leg lamp. I have a little leg lamp. I have like the big cardboard cutout I got for Christmas years ago, and you know that my niece got me that she knows I love that movie, and you know I'm a huge fan of the Christmas Story. I even have pajamas. I even have this shirt. You know, I'm a huge fan of the movie. It's a really great movie that I love, and the Easter Bunny thing is really funny. Like, oh, he looks like a pink nightmare, you know, and everything, and you know, like you know, and then of course when he does, he wants, the whole point is he wants a gun, and then at the end he shoots his eye out, actually gets shot, and it really full circle, like, oh, everything he was said was true, and then he just plays it out and everything, and everyone remembers that the iconic moment where he goes, oh fudge. And he goes, only I didn't say fudge. I said the F dash dash dash. And it's really great that the narrator of the movie is the author of the book. I thought that was really great too, because you feel like this is more about stamp of approval. And this movie is based off of a book called In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. That's more of a short story of the book that was expanded to a movie. And I think it works well because this movie does feel like a good movie. It doesn't feel like, you know, like you could watch this, you know, and enjoy it. It pays off everything it sets up. You have the school bully, and Ralphie finally overcomes his bully. You know, you had this asshole Jewish kid that literally tricks a kid into putting his, like, you know, tongue on a pole, and then the kid gets his tongue stuck there, and then later on, the kid gets his revenge when Ralphie, like, cusses, and then he tells the mom that Schwartz is to set it, and then the kid gets his ass beat by his mom. I like that right there as a full payoff for me, like, you know, and everything. I thought that was great, you know, and then, of course, you have, like, you know, of course, then you have, yeah, and then the teacher is like, you know, just such a strict lady, like, you know, and there's a lot of Wizard of Oz references, because I guess the movie was popular. It came out at the time, not of the movie A Christmas Story, but like where the movie takes place in the 40s. So like you had the wizard, you know, the Wicked Witch and everything, and you have the Santa Claus, where Santa Claus is so terrifying, goes, ho, 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 which I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. He's so cool, because you get to slide down the slide afterwards. It's just so cool. You know, and then of course you have, like, you know, and then, you know, I just thought that was really what's cool and everything. And then you got Ralphie has his, like, the one thing I don't like is his visions where he's like, oh, when I'm going to protect the family if I get a BB gun. And then he's like, oh, when you know, they put soap in my mouth, but I'm going to go blind and I'll teach them. And I'm like, no, you're an idiot, because guess what? You go blind, you can't see shit. Okay. Like, you know, stuff like that. I'm just like, okay, but it's a kid's vision. Okay. It's a kid's, you know. But I love this movie. It is a warm film. If you haven't seen it, it is a wonderful coming of age story that I think everybody should see. If I had to give this movie a grade, I'm going to give it a solid A+. Thank you so much.
Sharpton for president, y'all. I'm outie.
Jesse Jackson for VP.